But now she saw that the money had tricked her. It had made Ruth, a woman born a mere 4 years following the liberation of Dachau, believe that she was insulated from danger. How could she forget the lessons of her Orthodox girlhood? This was all in God's hand. Look at what happened if you allowed yourself to assume that your good fortune was guaranteed simply because it was vast. Idiot.
You just heard Taffy Brodesser-Akner reading from her novel Long Island Compromise. The author and journalist has just been awarded the Grand Prix de la Littérature Américaine for that book and its French translation by Diniz Galhos. Well, she's here to tell us more about the danger and misfortune she just hinted at. Taffy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, in that passage from your book, you introduce us to Ruth, and we learn that money has not protected her from misfortune. Tell us about this great upset in her life and the starting point for your novel.
The book begins with a kidnapping, and it begins with her husband's kidnapping. They are very, very wealthy. And Ruth, who was raised as an Orthodox Jew, was also raised in the post-war milieu of superstition and prayer and belief that you can control things if only you do a certain set of behaviors, if only you pray, if only you believe. And her husband, who is missing, suddenly she realizes that she had taken her foot off the gas because she believed that she was safe. She had allowed her new fortune, which she only had because she married a wealthy man, to believe that she would be okay if only because she felt okay.
And then, of course, there's a series of complex twists and turns and consequences from that kidnapping. Now, the French prize that I just mentioned there echoes the reception the book got in the US, critically acclaimed, bestseller. It's a sweeping family saga with some very precise and insightful observations about the Jewish American experience, a certain demographic in a very specific time and place. Why do you think the book has resonated so much beyond that time and place, for example, here in France, in a completely different culture?
First of all, I was so honored to receive that prize. And last night at the ceremony, the only hint I have is what I was told, which is that it takes the American Jewish experience and turns it into the American experience, which somebody who was born in 1975, like me, until recently, thought that to be a Jewish American is also to be an American. I think that there are some questions about that now, about how much a Jew is really considered part of the culture. But when I was writing this book, I believed that I was absorbed by the American culture and that I was able to talk about the things that affected the American culture, which are the disappearance of the middle class, late capitalism, the way it's so hard to get ahead now, the way the culture is stagnant.
And it's interesting, the Fletcher family at the center of your book are, as you write, extraordinarily, absurdly rich, but wealth doesn't seem to make them happy or provide the peace, security they seek. What did you want to say about wealth and privilege and its role specifically in American society at the moment?
The idea that wealth can insulate us and protect us when actually nothing can. And that passage, I think, tees up this idea that there's nothing you can do to really protect yourself. Not if you're Jewish, but also not if you're American and not if you're human.
And it's really interesting in terms of its dynamic with the American dream that was sold to so many migrants coming to the US. There's a very meta moment in the book where a character writes a screenplay for a TV series about a rich family with 3 dysfunctional adult children. And the series wins awards, it's super successful. Did you have any literary or television inspiration for that family?
You know, I had a really hard time writing this book. And when I watched Succession, which I am sure I am not the only person in this room or building who ate up like it was candy, it was such a delight to me. And also it inspired me to really understand that the world can tolerate, I like that you had this ready to go, the world could tolerate characters who are deformed by their wealth and their privilege, which is, I think, as great a statement about the culture as there can be right now.
And there's some very universal family themes, Shakespearean family dynamics in both that series and your book. And your previous novel, Fleischman is in Trouble, was, again, a huge hit, critically acclaimed, word-of-mouth hit, adapted into a TV series starring Claire Danes and Jesse Eisenberg, for which you were the writer and showrunner. Just to summarize the story for those who don't know it very briefly, it's the story of a seemingly perfect wife, mother, talent agent who sort of resigns from her life from one day to the next. But you decide to tell the story from the point of view of her husband, Toby Fleischman. Why was that?
At the time, I was working at a men's magazine. As you mentioned, I'm a journalist. And there was this extraordinary year where I interviewed all of these men who were currently in the delirious happiness of their second marriages. And they would talk about their first marriages, sometimes off the record. And eventually I began to think, I wonder what the woman would say if she could hear this. And that's where Fleischman came from.
It's a very memorable character played by Jesse Eisenberg. And speaking of those women, the other side of the story, and one who's particularly known for her let's say, aspirational, have-it-all lifestyle. As a seasoned feature journalist for the New York Times, you wrote a profile that went viral about Gwyneth Paltrow.
I sure did.
Where you explore the phenomenon of her celebrity being the sort of person that people love to hate, and you spent plenty of time with her to research that piece. What's your conclusion then? Why does she provoke such strong feelings?
Because she violates the contract between female celebrity and reader or viewer that says that the female celebrity has to say, I had nothing to do with it. These are my genes. I'm so lucky. And Gwyneth dares you to think, actually, if you worked harder, you could be more successful. And I spent months with her, as you said, and looking at her is to look into a funhouse mirror of yourself and see all the ways that you are not perfect. But her success, I liked her a lot. Her success comes from the fact that her message is that if I just worked harder, I could be a little more like her. I haven't really tested the theory out, but I still suspect it's not true.
I think it's many, 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 many hours of work, and many millions perhaps as well. And of course, in the course of your journalism, you've profiled many seriously famous people. When you were interviewing Nicki Minaj, I believe she fell asleep repeatedly.
She was asleep most of the time.
During the interview. Was that the strangest thing that's happened to you on assignment? What's another remarkable thing that you had encountered?
I think, now that you mention it, Nicki Minaj falling asleep while we were talking was absolutely the strangest thing. I also think it gave birth to my career as someone who understood that it actually isn't her job to stay awake. It's not her job to be good at talking about herself. It is my job to tell a story. And I feel very lucky that that happened, even though that night I cried myself to sleep and thought it was the end of my burgeoning career.
Oh, well, on the contrary, absolutely. So of all the people, when you think about who you'd like to profile, is there someone who fascinates you that you haven't managed to do yet?
People ask me that a lot. I think about Oprah. Every time I think about Oprah, I'm sure there are a few other people. I'm not doing it as often anymore because the New York Times has rules about profiling now that I've made a television show. So I think about people who are interesting. But I think Oprah and maybe Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen, of course.
Yes.
But Oprah would be an interesting exercise in turning the tables on a famous interviewer herself.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll take either of them. If anybody's listening, I'll take either.
Okay, good to know. Coming back to your writing, of course, it's celebrated for its precision, the sort of observations, small details that make us feel so close to your subjects in journalism or to your characters in fiction. When you're doing research for your novels, I wondered, do you approach these novels as a reporter? Where and how do you do your research?
My research comes from setting, from wherever I was when I was writing it, and from the thing that lit me up when I decided to write it. I don't ever forget that. I'm very the skill I have that crosses both fiction and nonfiction is that I am good at noticing my delight and observing it and writing it down. Like, that's the only thing I know how to do, is to say that also, if I'm interested in this, there will be a lot of people interested in this because I'm not that special.
I did wonder if you were frequent eavesdropper?
I mean, I'm sort of the delight first of turning 40 and then a month ago of turning 50 is that the invisibility that people bemoan as they get older has only made me better. That people don't notice if I'm there. They're not really paying attention to me. I'm pretty lucky.
You can go on
I can't wait till I'm 60. And I feel that I'll just be able to walk into a room like a ghost and listen to anybody.
Yeah, take notes in cafes. Well, finally, we asked you for a cultural tip, and you recommended a musical, Operation Mincemeat.
Yes.
That's created in London, now playing on Broadway. What do you love about this show?
I have been trying to figure out what it is that I love about this show. That I mean, there's a picture up. I want to just turn and stare at it. What I think is that we are in this dearth right now of originality. I feel that everything we watch is programmed by an algorithm or a corporation, that what streaming should have done was create an opportunity for every kind of story. And instead, everything I watch is the same kind of story. Everything is a reiteration of something that already existed. And here is something that is so alive. Both, it's still on the West End, it is still on Broadway. See it if you can. It is so alive and so original. And it baffles me, and I can't figure out why it works, and I love it.
And it's a fascinating mix as well of, politics, comedy, satire.
It makes no sense. There is no reason it should work, and yet it is the most delightful thing in the world.
Well, an excellent tip for one of the things that delights you. Thank you so much for that tip,
Thank
Taffy.
you.
Thank you for being with us today. We'll leave you with a look at some of the screwball comedy in Operation Mincemeat, and a reminder that Long Island Compromise is available in English and in its French translation. Do check in next time here with us on Arts 24. There's more news coming up just after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MI5. Sure to save the nation, Nanny told me in my cot. For your father gave you courage, Alfred Ponies, and that yacht. My centuries of breathing